Any other questions? Representative Miller is recognized for a motion.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion for a favorable report to the PCS, unfavorable to the original, and re-refer to rules.
You've heard the motion. All those in favor will say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you, Representative Winslow. Next is House Bill 384, Representative Tyson, City's use of perpetual care trust funds. And this is not a PCS unless he surprises me.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is a fairly simple bill, I would think. It is allowing a municipality that accepts a private cemetery to use the perpetual care trust fund that was set up for the private cemetery for uses other than typically your perpetual trust fund would be used for, which is maintenance. This actually gives them the ability to use it to make improvements to the cemetery, perhaps enlarge it in some ways, and that's it. I stand for any questions.
Any questions for Representative Tyson? If not, we'll entertain a motion. Representative Miller.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I do have a question. So the funds can only be used for the cemetery, nothing else,
That is correct.
but it'll go into the city's general fund.
It'll go into the general fund of the city, and it states in D, I think it's 1 and 2, that it shall be for the purpose of perpetual care for beautifying and expanding the city cemeteries. So it cannot be used for other issues, that the city may have.
I've just seen, I'm sorry, follow up. I've just seen cemeteries that's fallen by the wayside, and I just want to make sure that money's protected and the city don't use it for anything else, so.
Yeah, I think this bill does that. Let's see. Says under 1, to fund created pursuant to the city's general fund for the purpose of establishing, operating, and maintaining cemeteries as authorized by General Statute 160A.
Representative Pickett.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Representative Tyson, if I read this correctly, if it's the one cemetery is turned over to the town, that money is put in the general fund, but it can be used for any cemetery that the town owns, not just that one?
I'm going to let staff answer that one. I think you're correct, though. Is anybody here from staff?
It should be for just that one.
Staff's recognized.
Alex Ramirez with Legislative Analysis. As drafted, the bill would currently allow the funds received from a former private owner of a cemetery to be used for any of the city's cemeteries.
Representative Miller is recognized.
So, and this probably should be directed to staff, but so if they have 4 cemeteries, but the folks that this trust has paid into this trust originally, then it can be spread out to these other 3. It's not just for that one cemetery.
Staff is recognized.
For the funds received in connection with the transfer of the cemetery, those funds could be used for any of the city's cemeteries.
Representative Watford.
Just to clarify that, it's only to a cemetery that's been turned over to the city, though, correct? It's not a
Staff's
private cemetery.
recognized.
That's correct, sir.
Yeah, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, if I could I want to try to clarify. What you've seen, a lot of these smaller, in some cases, orphan cemeteries that have people can't take care of them, and so they want to turn them over to somebody that can. And the cities, in this case, one particular city, they wanted to use the funds, which was in this case $70,000, to improve the cemetery, to enlarge it so they could have more revenue in order to take care of it.
Representative Miller.
And I'm not trying to be difficult, but I'm very familiar with this. My wife actually works for a funeral home, but she manages a cemetery. The people that pay say XYZ cemetery, they paid to get into that cemetery. That money should be used for that cemetery, not other cemeteries. And that's my only concern is the folks that have originally paid for those plots, that money stays for that one particular cemetery. So I would urge you, I'll vote for the bill, but I'll urge you to maybe look at that.
Representative?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm happy to take a look at a PCS if we can tighten that up a little bit and just have it for the specific cemetery that it was donated for. I don't have a problem with that at all.
Question for staff. I assume that PCS will be whenever it goes to rules.
Nick Giddings, Legislative Analysis. Yeah, it would be in the next stop, wherever that may be.
All right, thank you. Any other questions? Are we ready to vote? All those in favor will say aye. Wait a minute. Yeah, that would, hey, I'm in a hurry this morning. Representative Loftus.
I'll make that as a motion, Mr. Chair. If favorable, refer to rules, calendar, and operations of the House with the changes we had talked about as a PCS.
So favorable to the PCS, unfavorable to the original.
Original,
Oh, I'm sorry. We have so many of them. Favorable to the bill. All right, thank you. You're absolutely correct. Keep me straight. Now we're ready to vote. All those in favor will say aye. All opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you, Representative Tyson. The next is House Bill 419. It's also a PCS. Without objection, the PCS is before the committee. And I believe this Representative Winslow again. He's going to be up several times, so in case I forget his name.
I'm being very efficient with my time today. This is very simple. This is just an update to the Youngsville Town Charter. It's been almost 150 years. They've done an update, so we're going to call it modernization of their charter. And Mr. Chairman, I'd like to recognize our mayor, Mayor Fonzie Flowers, to speak, if that's okay.
Mayor Flowers is signed up to speak, and we'll recognize him. And behind that is Kate Barber Jones, also from the town of Youngsville, wants to speak.
Thank you guys so much. It is a little unusual for me to be on this side of the dais. I do appreciate everything you guys do, and being in politics, we understand the ins and outs of everything. As Representative Winslow has stated, the town of Youngsville has had a charter that is very, very old and quite antiquated. It's the original charter from 1875, March of 1875. And we're just looking for anything that we can do to modernize it. And I'm here to potentially answer any questions that you guys may have. We've got our town attorney as well. So any questions that you may have for us, just looking forward to coming in.
It's been changed. You did not know that. It's been re-referred to finance.
All right, we'll refer to finance then.
Now we're ready to vote. All those in favor say aye. All opposed? The ayes have it. Representative Winslow, don't go anywhere. You're up next. House Bill 438, Franklin Granville, recognizing a common boundary.
Yes, sir, thank you. And also, I want to thank our staff for this committee. Literally, they were working till, I was getting stuff coming in at 11 o'clock last night, trying to prepare for the meeting, and they were hammering me, look, if you don't have to by 7:30 an answer, it's not going to be heard because we have to work to get it all done. So, fantastic. So thank you so much. And since 2/3 these are my bills, they were working on my stuff, so thank you so much. So the Franklin Granville County boundary, this is very simple. I shouldn't be simple. We had a geodetic survey completed between the Franklin and Granville lines and discovered their error in what they have been using for almost as long as anybody can remember or can document, so long that even the census tracts are following what they're using through our GIS. So Franklin and Granville have both agreed on the common boundary line, and we just need legislative law in place to recognize the new lines. So I'm here if you have any questions.
Any questions for Representative Winslow? Representative Von Hafen.
I'm just curious how much it changed.
A lot.
Like miles or?
It's an 11-mile boundary and almost $2 million in taxable property.
And they agreed to the changes?
Yes, yeah, it was friendly. It was a very friendly agreement, so.
Okay, thank you.
Because if we change it now, it would change political boundaries, it would change census tracts, it would change everything, how everyone has lived for almost 2 generations in those areas.
Any additional questions? If not, we would entertain a motion. Representative Miller,
Motion for approval and re-referred to rules.
you've heard the motion?
It's on a PCS.
Yeah, we have a PCS for that one, I believe, don't
No, that was not a PCS.
we? Oh, that's right, yeah, that was good,
Yeah,
sorry.
hang on, you're gonna get that next with a PCS and
I'm also get the next one.
all those in favor say aye. All opposed? The ayes have it. Next is Representative Winslow, closed session. This is a PCS with an amendment.
Actually, the committee member to sponsor the bill or sponsor the amendment. Representative Watson wants to just sign. It's a technical amendment. Yes, we're changing. That was a citation here. Okay. We called that last night. All right. It was too late. It was after the deadline.
But then all the numbers made for the same thing, so.
Oh, yeah, it's just changing the citation, so. So, man, pass this to the sergeant,
Yes.
and I'm happy to explain the amendment if necessary.
We'll be at ease for a moment while we pass out the amendment. It's supposed to be hard, isn't it? The amendment is so short, we will take up the amendment first, and staff, if you would explain the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Billy Godwin. Members of the committee, this is a staff requested technical amendment. What the amendment does is on page 1, line 21, it just deletes the citation to GS 143-318.11 and substitutes the words "this section." It's just basically eliminating that citation. We caught that last night.
Without objection is before the committee as amended.
All right, thank you very much.
Representative Winslow.
Yes, sir. So what this does is it closes the loop on our closed session laws. Most local governments are aware of what they should be discussing and what they should not be discussing in closed session. Our law is very clear on that. But there's really no one responsible for making sure that outside of inert conversation, like Representative Alston, how was your birthday, how was your vacation, those kind of things, right? That's not to be considered. So we actually clarified the language a little bit in this PCS so that we wouldn't have board members worried about asking about birthdays and holidays and those kind of things. But what it does is it requires the chair and the mayor to be responsible for making sure there are no conversations that shouldn't be allowed. Like you shouldn't have conversations about, hey, that rezoning that's coming up, can we talk about that while we're in here? Because that's not allowed in closed session. So the mayor or the chair will go before a closed session, they'll make an announcement, here's what we're going to discuss, that meets the requirement. And while they're in there, they're responsible for making sure that there's only closed session conversation. When they come out, they're supposed to verify that the only conversation in there was according to what is allowed by law. And this is supported by the Treasurer's Office, the League, and also County Commissioners Association. Yeah. Okay, I got a thumbs up. Good.
Any questions for Representative Winslow? Hearing none, I will entertain a motion. Representative Loftus.
Mr. Chairman, I move for approval, if favorable, to refer to Judiciary 1. And then if favorable there, refer to rules, calendar, house, and operations of the house
Favorable to the PCS as amended.
as amended.
Okay.
Yes.
Unfavorable to the original bill, rolled into a new PCS and referred to Judiciary 1.
Yes.
That was a great motion you made. All those in favor will say aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Representative Winslow, you can sit down for just a second and rest up. We're gonna call on Representative Carson Smith unless he's a surprises. This one does not have a PCS.
Not, Mr. Chairman.
All right.
Here's a motion. Good morning, committee members. This basically is, this is a local bill. It'll affect the towns of North Topsail Beach, Surf City, and Topsail Beach. Basically, will allow them to adopt an ordinance to prohibit the abandonment of vessels in navigable waters within their jurisdiction. A lot of this came from actually vessels after storms, and when they're, especially when they're a hazard to navigation. Towns actually cannot move them without being able to write an ordinance to do it, and they can't write an ordinance to do it unless we give them permission. That's what we're doing here. I'd be glad to answer any questions.
Thank you. Is there any questions for Representative Smith? Seeing none, we recognize Representative Pickett. Representative Hardister is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I was wondering, can Representative Winslow present my bill for me? We've got Mr. Local Government over here. Members, this should theoretically be very, very straightforward. So we had a situation arise where we have a municipal service district in Greensboro, and that's a defined geographic boundary downtown Greensboro where there's a, like I said, it's a municipal service district. They do things like they put on parades and they clean up the streets and things like that. And there's a supplemental property tax on them. Well, believe it or not, there is a property owner just outside that boundary who wants in the municipal service district, but the property owner between the district and that particular property owner doesn't want in. And so they wanted to know, the city council, could they do a voluntary satellite incorporation into the district? And the answer is, based on law, no, they can't. So this would authorize that. But if you look at the bill, it says it has to be voluntary, that the property owner has to petition the council. It says that it has to be within 1,000 feet from the boundary of the district, and that same services have to be provided. And then if you aggregate all the satellite territory, it cannot comprise more than 10% of the municipal service district. That's what it does, very straightforward. But Mr. Chair, if it's in order, I do have a question for staff. I was just reading the bill here. Would that be in order, Mr. Chairman?
That'll be in order, and staff is recognized to answer.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I don't know if this is a typographical error or not, but if you look at, I believe I have the latest copy of the bill, the first page, line 30, where it says report before the public hearing required by subsection D, is that supposed to be B?
Nick Giddings, Legislative Analysis. That is current law, so I think the report is under subsection D, but I'd have to confirm real quick.
Okay. Sorry.
We'll be at ease while we're investigating. Yeah. Staff.
Nick Giddings, Legislative Analysis. So the subsection C, which is regarding the report, applies to the public hearing required by subsection D, and subsection D is the hearing and notice requirements.
So it is correct as printed.
It is correct.
Thank you. Any questions for Representative Hardister? You're recognized.
Representative Hardister, I'm not familiar with the municipal service district. Does it have an increased tax rate to be a member of that district? Is that?
Yes, sir, I believe they do, and it likely changes. The staff may want to weigh in this from one jurisdiction to the other. Typically, the larger municipalities have them. Like I know Raleigh has one, Charlotte, I believe Winston-Salem's got one, High Point, Greensboro, but staff may want to weigh in on that.
Staff is recognized.
Nick Giddings, Legislative Analysis. Representative Watford, yes, the service districts do have an increased property tax rate for those in the district, and the property tax rate is set by the governing board, and it's determined based on the amount of benefit that these groups need to provide the services that the district's going to provide.
Representative Prather.
Thank you, Prather.
Prather, I'm sorry.
So I just had a question about the subdivision piece. It says if a subdivision is included in the area proposed for annexation, the entire subdivision must be included. Would 100% of the property owners in that subdivision have to agree then? Can you just clarify
Yes.
that part of it?
I believe so, yes. I believe 100%, when staff could please feel free to clarify, but my understanding is it says it has to be petitioned by the property owners, so 100% of the property owners would have to agree to it.
Representative Miller.
Just a question for the sponsor. So if you have a new development going in and the developer, before he's got any occupants in the houses, can he agree to that as well?
Representative Hardister.
Before anything's sold?
In that case, I would believe so. Now, we are talking about downtown, so a lot of cases it's not residential, but it could be. It could be, townhomes, condominiums, or even single family. But if all that property at that time is owned by one individual, they could ostensibly appeal to the council to be incorporated into that municipal service district.
Additional questions? Representative Loftus.
So would that make it like an HOA when you buy that property? It comes with that asterisk that says, oh, by the way, you're a member of this MSD?
Representative Hardister.
I would that would get into real estate law. I believe so. That's something that would need to be disclosed there. But again, I would also reiterate to the committee that number one, it does have to be voluntary. Number two, if we're talking about a satellite here, and it says in the bill that not more than 10% of the entire territory can be satellite. So if it's contiguous, then it would apply to a standard procedure there. But what happened here is there's one property owner in Greensboro that really wants to be in the municipal service district. He's a big believer in it. He's willing to pay the extra taxes on it. But he has some property that's just, bless you, that's just between him and the boundaries of the district. And they can't come and get his property and not get the property between him and the district. So this would allow satellite in a very limited capacity. Again, only 10%. It says it has to be within 1,000 feet of the boundaries. But as far as your question there, I would say that would be typical disclosure, through real estate acquisition.
Representative Moss.
Representative Hardister, I know that this is not a local bill, so this would pertain to the whole state. And if someone chose to try to maybe use this for what it's not intended, like the case that you just listed, that could be a way to circumvent some major items and increase taxes in certain areas, couldn't it?
I would say that depends on how you interpret it. I mean, in my view here, it's voluntary. If a property owner wants in, if they're within 1,000 feet, I feel like they should have that ability. But also, it comes down to whether or not there's actually a municipal service district. A lot of towns don't have them. And if somebody wants to pay the additional taxes, hey, that's up to them.
Representative Watford.
For motion, appropriate time.
Any other discussion? I think this is the appropriate time.
I'd like to make a motion for favorable report for House Bill 451, referral to finance.
You've heard the motion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you, Representative Hardister. And last but not least, we're going back to House Bill 452, Representative Winslow, and he's on the road. He's got another PCS.
Is the PCS acceptance.
You can tell it was the very last bill. Without objection, the PCS is before the committee.
Thank you very much. So this is, in Franklin County, we currently have our Board of Elections as a nonpartisan race during the primary season only. So what we're doing is we're changing it from a and then the top 2 vote getters will go to a nonpartisan general. This is, there's no disagreement from our board members, and so it's non-controversial.
Any questions? Representative Moss.
So Representative Winslow, you're saying that the local, I guess the local boards have requested this, everybody's in agreement that they don't want the partisan election?
Representative Winslow.
I said it was non-controversial, and this was part of the conversation was moving the election to November because on average you gain about 40% more voters at the time, and so this was the agreement with the board and to have it as continue as nonpartisan.
Any additional questions for Representative Winslow? Seeing none, this would be the appropriate time for a motion. Representative Pickett.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I make a motion for a favorable report on House Bill 452 PCS, unfavorable to original, and referred to rules.
You've heard Representative Miller's motion. I'm sorry, Pickett, excuse me there, Representative Miller. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? The ayes have it, and we are